I like the idea of calling it outsource, that we outsource things. That in many respects, rather than you feeling like you have to be 100% responsible for your performance, for your amazing performance, you're going to do a lot of the outsourcing to the other person and to the world around you, and even into your internal landscape as well. That rather than me feeling like, hey, Ella Coco, that's okay. Rather than feeling like all of the attention is on me, and as Miranda would say, she calls it like there's the flow, like there's the flow between you and I, but what often happens is actors will reverse the flow, and all of a sudden, all of that energy is going back to themselves rather than out to the other. Does that make sense? That rather than reversing the flow and making it about me, I can really outsource what I'm doing. That it really is about communicating to the person in front of me, or, for example, actually using the world around you. So one of the things I want you guys to maybe consider or take on for tonight is whatever scene you're doing, I get that your scene might take place in the kitchen, or it might take place in a bedroom, or it might take place at work or in an office or whatever. I want you to just let the audience do a lot of that work in terms of projecting onto you where that scene is taking place, and certainly we can adjust things to make it feel like it's that space. But I want you guys to also maybe just try on or accept that you're actually just doing this scene or having this conversation here. And what I mean by here is I mean here, in this room, at Acting Mastery, tonight. So that there's no pretending going on about being somewhere else. That whatever is happening in here is what's happening. And if you need to exit, there's the door. I just did a scene study class today, and I just had sort of talked about this a little bit, these ideas as well. And then immediately some people got up to do a scene, and one of them went to exit. And again, let's say the door's there, and this person just went, I'm leaving, goodbye. I just went and stood by the wall. And I literally was like, there's a door. The door's there. Or again, when one of the characters is referring to somebody who's in the shower. And she was just sort of saying, I can't believe you brought this guy, and now he's in the shower. But I had no sort of sense of like, well, where is the shower? Well, again, if we're using here, obviously we don't have a shower, but we do have a bathroom, and it's just over there. So if I know where that bathroom is, I can let the bathroom do the work for me of having that target in space. Does that make sense? I know what I'm talking about. That person that I don't like is in there right now. And that's going to change how I'm being and what I'm doing in the scene, in the present. Does that make sense? So I want you to just take this on. No pretending. Use what's here, and we can adjust accordingly. The other thing that we played around with in the advanced course, which you guys weren't here for, is the power. Well, you guys had did a little bit of this in your work. Oh, you were in the advanced, of course. Sorry, Rena. You were there the whole weekend.
Just out of curiosity, in the future, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll bring them back. But just you guys did a bit anyway in day 1 and 2 of like just playing with objects in the scene, the power of like an object. And I even thought maybe next week you could all do the exercise that we tried on Sunday, which is I want you guys to all bring in an object, like something that is of value to you. And then we'll try something with them. But even just holding something in a scene can be very grounding. It brings you back to here, to now. And if I also use something that is meaningful, that has a history for me, then I can also let that object do some of the work. Does that make sense? That it's going to affect me in a particular way because it means something to me. Even if I'm talking to Rena, I can still just have it in my hand and I can let it begin to work itself onto me.
And also now think the entire story that you said.
Right.
Because I picked the ring.
You did pick this ring, that's right.
And I looked at all the rings and I was like, oh, that one is interesting because it's like rough around the edges.
Yeah, one of the discoveries we had is that, you know, when someone tells you their story about like an object, for example, suddenly it's no longer an object. Do you know what I mean? It comes with an entire backstory. So that when you look at that or you think about that, it has a lot more weight. We'll talk a bit about that next week. Another tool that was really great was that Miranda talked about was to go out and to rehearse your scenes in public. To do your scene in public, to do it in a public place, because it's going to completely change the way you perform. And that also that when you're talking about something in a scene, I know that I've given you guys the free association tool. It's something else that Miranda talked a lot about was the importance of really knowing what you're talking about. That you may want to, I get that you may not have time to do this sort of thing if you're doing, you know, a class in here, but like it's to go on a field trip and to actually go visit a place that's similar to what your character's talking about in the scene, to even potentially learn your lines there, because it's going to completely change, again, the way you say them. It's just going to add these little kind of flickers of specificity that you can't just get from just saying lines. Does that make sense? And to let it in, and if you don't have time to do that, then what if you were to do a bit of research? Just jump on Google and Google some images. Or if there's another person in the scene, you don't have to necessarily just be talking to the light box. You can either get another person's face up there, or if you don't have another person when you're taping at home, print off a photograph of someone so that you're actually talking to a real face, not just to a sticker on the wall. Does that make sense? So I'm probably going to throw a few tools at you guys tonight. There are tools for connection that are about non-touch, that are about like, playing different games, like word games, for example, that don't involve touch. And then what Miranda would sort of do is she would work you from like non-touch into some touch, like a kind of like a playground clapping game, into more connected touch, like putting your heart over your scene partner's, putting your hand over your scene partner's heart, and they do the same thing to you, and then you put your hand over theirs and close your eyes and breathe together. There's, if you think about, if I were to like stick a sticker to the wall and I were to begin to peel that sticker off, you know how you're going to get left with all these little sticky bits? Even as I'm peeling it off, you can see the sticky bits between the sticker and the wall. In some ways, that's what these connection exercises are about. Creating sticky bits between you and the other person, rather than just coming in cold, like you've got no relationship or connection to this person. One of the other things that Miranda talked about, which I thought was really fantastic, and I think I kind of, just knew instinctively, but it was really great to hear her speak to it, was the importance of your reader and the work that you are doing when you're being a reader. That in many respects, so much of the quality of your performance is dependent on what you're getting from your reader. And first and foremost, we obviously want to be generous readers. But I was actually sharing over the weekend something that I've noticed with some of my students that are booking gigs regularly, which is that when they come in to tape with me, they're not waiting for me to kind of offer up all my suggestions and to just like, give to them. They come in ready to tell me as the reader what they need. And sometimes that involves like giving me a bit of blocking, or sometimes it might involve giving me something that I'm doing in a particular time, or sometimes they'll just say, look, can you just try being really angry with me? Or maybe we might even do some kind of connection exercise. And what that means is that they're really taking responsibility for their performance. They're outsourcing their performance to the reader. Does that make sense? They're outsourcing it to me, so that all they have to do then is just react to what I'm giving them. And they're not having to generate everything themselves. I've noticed that with a couple of my students. And it means that when they do that, when they're kind of coming in and they're offering me what they need, it also just means that I've got more time to really then direct them, because we're not sort of starting from nothing. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually able to then go, okay, this is awesome, great. What if we tried this? What if we tried that? I've even had students, including someone in my Thursday class, print out stuff that they need to look at in scenes. For example, maybe my character's talking about the couch. We don't have a couch in here. Yes, I could just maybe imagine that that's the couch. Or sometimes what he might do is he'll just print out a photo of a couch and he'll stick it there. So he knows exactly when he's looking at the couch, he's actually looking at a couch. You may not think that that is going to make much of a difference. I tell you, it makes all the difference in the world. He's not having to pretend. Does that make sense? He's actually seeing a couch and reacting to that. So I really want to encourage you guys to start taking responsibility for what you need and not being afraid to ask for it, and to even, at the very beginning, be a little bit of a director. I don't want you to feel like you're having to direct once you're in the scene, but just ask your scene partner for what you need. Does that make sense? And then deal with whatever they're giving you.